In Martin Ehrman's new paper, he argues that rising support for populist parties isn't just because of economic concerns, as is often stated, but cultural ones too. Martin identifies 4 forms that these blended anxieties take: frayed identities, precarious futures, marginalization, and powerlessness. Let's briefly take each in turn. Firstly, frayed identities. This is the sense that some supporters of populist parties report of almost feeling like strangers in their own land. Questions of identity are of course closely linked to questions of community, and for people within this group, there can be a sense that their community is changing rapidly, and what has felt like strong community ties are being weakened. These sentiments have been seized on effectively by populists in recent elections, including the National Front in the 2017 elections in France, and some high-profile supporters of the Leave campaign in the UK's 2016 EU referendum. Precarious futures is the second form mentioned in our new paper. Due to cultural and economic changes, a number of supporters of populist parties share a real sense of uncertainty about the future and a longing for stability. 62% of American voters, for example, recently agreed in a poll that their lives overall were declining in quality. There is now an increasing feeling in the West that the long-standing promise that the next generation will do better than the last is no longer the reality. The impact of this has been again seen in recent elections, in which previously relatively separate voter groups moved together to support populist victories. Both in the US election in 2016, where areas of the Rust Belt uniting with some southern states, and in the UK's EU referendum, with some typically Labour strongholds uniting with some typically conservative voting rural areas. Then there's marginalisation. Many supporters of populist parties report feeling increasingly as though their voices are not heard in national politics. For this group, there is a sense that other people and groups are receiving preferential treatment, which can in turn lead to the politics of division and blame. This sentiment has also been harnessed by populists to achieve electoral success, which in the UK, for example, we saw spill over into protests calling for migrants to leave the country in some areas after the 2016 EU referendum. Lastly, let us look at powerlessness. When the feeling of political abandonment is exacerbated by the inability to do anything about these economic and cultural concerns, a sense of powerlessness can follow. Nearly 2/3 of Americans now agree that hard work is no guarantee of success and social mobility, a significant rise since 2013. While frustration with representative politics is not new, what is emerging is a decrease in identification with it, especially among the younger generations. This, coupled with a distrust of political systems, comes a desire for greater direct engagement with democracy, for example, in referendums. These concerns are genuine, and what the centre-left needs to do to be seen as a credible alternative to populists who ride the anger, but don't provide real solutions, is to pull together both a new rhetoric and a new policy programme that addresses them. What the centre-left cannot do, as has happened at times, is either cede this ground simply because the conversations are difficult, or worse, simply dismiss these concerns as incorrect.